Let's get ready to rumble! Family, what's good? What's good? What's good? You already know what time it is. You heard it. It's that time. Let's get ready to rumble. This is probably the most special day out of my whole week because I get to come on with my family. But listen, before we jump in, this is the Black and Bold podcast. Here you already know you're gonna hear some thought provoking, some gut wrenching, sometimes even tear jerking content that you just can't get enough of. I think I get better every week, but I'm not. It's just not about me. It's about me and my partners. But listen, I'm the bold. But listen, we're gonna get this thing started right tonight. What's going on, Brother Black? How you doing?
Hey, what's up, man? We're gonna let you have that tonight. This is your moment. This is your time. So I'm gonna let you shine more than you already shine tonight. We're gonna do our little intro just to get by so we can get back to you and everything that's going on. But I am the Black.
Yeah.
I'm the Black, no problem. I'm the Black, Dwayne Johnson, otherwise representing Lowndes High, Valdosta, Georgia, Lowndes County, representing also Georgia Tech. Electrical engineering degree out there, representing University of Maryland during my time in the DC area, master's degree in management there. Also just representing those that are doing their thing to be financially independent. Much support and much blessings to you. But that's kind of where we stand right now. My wife, shout out to her. We are co-owners and operators of our own property management firm, bridgebuilderinvestments.com. You can find it. But we manage for owners with regard to rental properties and Airbnb co-host opportunities as well. So that's the nature of our business. Alongside with that, we are proud parents of 3 magnificent individuals. Just learned today that our 6-year-old, obviously graduating kindergarten, but he was selected to be in the gifted program this upcoming fall. So that's, just one of those things. Hard work pays off. Again, we've always been talking about the importance of parenting and reading to children. I really have I'll just say that works. But, the more time we can put in with our kids, that's what we try to do, educate them beyond the classroom. So that's a direct result of that. and the time my wife and I put into our kids there. But outside of that, it's AAU now, the amateur league, if you will, for track and field. Now we're revving it back up for summer track. Even the high school has got their little small unit of individuals that we'll be practicing with as well at the high school. But Kendall, our 15-year-old, she's running unattached, had her first meet this past Saturday in Tallahassee at Childs High School, ripped it up, rained out as far as, the latter half of the meet. So she did not run the 800, but she blew the brakes off of all the clubs that ran in the 400-meter dash. So we handled some business, gave a little sneak peek what can transpire with that hard work. And of course, our middle child, Kalel, at 12 years old, running in the 13-14 bracket based on his age. He actually ate it up as well. In his bracket, he won first place, took home a medal, cheesing, ear to ear. Very proud of him because he had not run since middle school track meets about a month and a half ago, if you will. So he's been training with her the whole while ever since he was, 3 years ago from now. So it's no surprise that, they've been working hard and pushing each other. But that's what it's been all about, man. So we just basically encourage others as they're going about this parental journey. It's all worth it. It's seeds that you're dropping. Spend time with your children, read, get in that math, do some work over the summer. Just because it's a break, we always say it's not a break.
Oh yeah.
So I'm sorry, but I'm sorry. Back to the rest of the intros because again, Suzette, it's his night. So I'm sorry for taking up too much time, but that's just what's going on in our little world.
I appreciate you understanding, that there is a hierarchy that exists on this show. I'm so humble. Yeah, man. Hey, that's great news, actually, because Kendall has really, 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 really shocked a lot of us. She's shocked even me, with her ability and her seriousness. So matter of fact, shout out to the Johnson clan, because everybody making major moves from kindergarten up to high school. So even to the parents. So shout out to the Johnson clan, man. Appreciate you. You know what I'm saying?
Hashtag Johnson over here, man.
Absolutely, absolutely, man. So
Tell us what's going on today, bro. What happened? What happened?
hey,
Tell
man,
the
listen, I got an opportunity, man, to find my firstborn. Got a chance to witness him graduate high school today from Hampton Terry Parker High School here in Jacksonville. So very, very proud father. I'm so happy for him. I'm so proud of him that he worked really hard, throughout his career, and he's had a lot of challenges because moving, from Georgia to Florida, and that was an adjustment, for him, to a whole new school, but he adjusted well. Got an opportunity to play ball, but he wasn't able to finish his senior year playing ball. But he did well. I'm proud of him. He stuck it. He stuck it out. He worked hard, and now we're making plans for him to enter trade school in the fall. So very excited about that. So within a year, he'll be able to get out and do his own thing, travel the world with partnerships through the trade program. So I'm excited for him. Listen, man, I never knew it would come so fast. Yeah, man. Just like for number one, just watching him grow and watching him become his own person, his own young man. Never pressured him to be anything like me as far as sports and stuff like that. And he's still finding his footing, but I'm happy for him, man. You should have saw the smile on his face when he walked across the stage, man. He was looking up in the stands, waving, looking at us. So yeah, man. Got a chance to watch my baby. Well, he's not my baby boy anymore, but my firstborn, hit that first milestone. So I've been smiling all day, man. Happy for him because I know there's a bright future ahead for him. So I appreciate it, man. I really appreciate it. You see that big
Let's
smile.
talk about that height, though. That height.
Yeah, man. Yeah, he gets it from I think the height skipped my generation. Well, skip
Absolutely.
skip skip me. It's funny because from the time he was 9, he grew. His shoe size grew with his age until he got 14, and
Oh,
It got to, I think he's like a 14 and 14 and something. But yeah, he's about 6'3", 6'3" and something, almost 6'4". So he's about 6'3". But yeah, man, it's crazy. It's really crazy about me being my little 5'10", and him towering over me. But I'm excited, man. I look at him all the time. I still see little Eddie, but he's a grown man now, so I'm happy for him. Yeah, I appreciate it. But yeah, man, we just try to do our thing. We're trying to push forward, and I got one more to push through. She's going to the 6th grade, and we're trying to get her in that gifted. I think she probably will be. She's a candidate for gifted, so hopefully we can get her pushed through for that. So yeah, we're gonna be working with her in the summertime for sure. And yeah, man, we're just trying to get this E3 Legacy group pushing, trying to get this thing started, doing what we can, man. So yeah, I'm excited. This has been a great week for me. So I feel like I graduated. But yeah, man, things going good. Beautiful. What's going on?
Hey, what's going on? I am just gonna really take it easy and just bow down and let you have your day. Uh, I'm gonna cut you some slack tonight,
I
but no,
appreciate
congratulations to your young man. I had two of my children to graduate high school, and it's a special moment to
it.
see
Yeah,
them walk across that stage. You feel like you're walking across that stage with them.
yeah, man.
It is a special moment. So congratulations to him.
Absolutely.
Congratulations to you and your entire family because truly it takes a village,
Yeah.
to kind of mold a young person. So
Oh yeah.
congratulations to you all. But yes, I am Suzette Michelle. I am the third counterpart that you guys beat upon frequently. But I am so excited to be amongst, I guess, the beating. So uh, but yes, I am a native here of the beautiful city of Valdosta, Georgia, graduate of Lowndes High, graduate of Wiregrass Technical College, and mother of three. So this upcoming year, my baby girl, which I'm like you, we're gonna have to relinquish that baby, but she will be a senior the upcoming year, and then I'll be an empty nester. I'm not sure how I'm gonna spend my time. I'm pretty sure I'm gonna be using my passport a lot, a lot. That's my plan. But yeah, I'm so excited to be amongst, and I'm kind of like Brother Black. I'm gonna cut my introduction short tonight, and we're gonna let you gloat because you've earned it. So go ahead, Bo. We're gonna unleash you tonight and let you do your thing. So,
Listen. I don't think they're ready for me to be unleashed, sis. I
oh
don't
my
think
God,
they're
I
ready.
don't think they're ready either. But you're entitled
Mm.
tonight.
So listen tonight, y'all. If, I'm definitely going to be really, really petty tonight. Yeah, so just jump on board and you just come on for the ride. But now I think we're gonna have a good show. We missed you all last week, but we have some great content, and we were glad that you all were able to join us. For those that may be logged on to YouTube or those that are logged on to Facebook, thank you so much for logging on. We appreciate all of your support, and if you haven't liked and shared and subscribe, please do so before we move any further. If you look in the back, you see our Instagram handle. If you want to follow us on Instagram, there you go. That's our handle as well. We're trying our best to do our best to put this information out. Listen, this is a community show. We try to find everything we can to be supportive and empowering and encouraging to our community, our local community in South Georgia. But our influence has expanded beyond our local region, y'all. So we got people all over the country, from California to Kalamazoo. We got people in Arizona. We got people in Texas. We got people in Alabama. We got family up in D.C. and Virginia. We got people all over at ATL, logging on regularly, supporting us. So we want to say thank you from all walks of life too. So this isn't just a ratchet podcast. We got some righteous folk on here. We got we got some rebels on here. We got all types of folks. So thank y'all so much for logging on and being with us tonight. But yeah, we got some great things lined up for you all tonight, and we're gonna have a real candid conversation. if you've got an opportunity to see the show topic, are we too emotionally unavailable to accept real love from others? We're going to get to this because I think this is going to be a great topic for us to discuss relationships and also how we relate just as male and female across the board when it comes to finding that one that we always say. But yeah, we're going to start from the top. As you all know, there has been some chatter in the news. There's been some chatter on ESPN and on our Instagrams and our social media about Mr. Deion Sanders. Deion Sanders has completely shook up the entire coaching model all across the board. You all have seen it. You have seen it probably for the past year and a half to 2 years. You have seen him really, really, really impact college football like you haven't seen in a very long time. I would venture to say ever, especially with a black coach with such a following, with such support, and with such a reputation. We haven't seen this probably ever. I think that probably the last time we had a black coach in news as much would have been Coach Eddie Robinson at Grambling. That probably would have been the last time, and we all know that was a very long time ago. Well, I mean, it wasn't like eons ago, but it's been over 30 to 40 years where he was in his prime coaching there at Grambling. And we haven't had a black coach to have as much um, presence as Dion. And as you all know, when you get the light, when you get the limelight, when you're doing well, when God is on your side, you always got some haters who are going to pop out with some foolishness. And so if you haven't heard, most recently, Coach Nick Saban had some choice words for Deion Sanders' success. And so I asked the group a question. I asked my brother and my sister a question, and we wanted to bring this to the podcast. Are they intimidated by Deion Sanders' success? I'm going to read you a little piece of this article because it'll really give us a quick summation of what's going on. When Alabama's football head coach Nick Saban, he accused Texas A&M of buying the number one ranked recruiting class in the nation, and he also accused Jackson State of paying a player $1 million. He was really using Deion Sanders and Jimbo Fisher as pawns in order to ask Alabama boosters for more money, Sanders said last week. If I go on for a further quote, they just threw me in the fire because of what we accomplished in recruiting last year with Kevin Coleman and Travis Hunter and some others. Sanders, the JSU head coach, said on the I Am Athlete podcast with Brandy Marshall, they just threw us in the fire because he was a spokesman for all SEC and he was a spokesman for all the Power Fives and the PWIs. If you don't know what that is, that's predominantly white institutions, by saying, hey, y'all, we can't let that happen again. So what do y'all think? I mean, with all the success that Deion has had, I mean, granted, Deion's reputation precedes him because of what he did in baseball and football from high school to college to the pros. And after that, what he did in those schools in Texas and those football programs he did in Texas, he has definitely paid his dues when it comes to him being able to step into this position. And because of his affiliation with the game, his knowledge of the game, his experience in the game, he has done exactly what he told JSU, um, the leadership, what he would do. He told them that he would bring more presence, more of a national presence to the school. He did that. He promised that he would do things or make moves. Well, the connections that he had, he would bring those to the school. He did that. He promised that he would make sure that his athletes would not just be athletes, but they would be students first. I looked on the data. Um, his athletes are placed within the top 5 or top 10 of athletes average, the overall average GPA for the whole team. He did that. He promised that he would get more, 5-star or top 5 recruiters, excuse me, athletes to his school. He did that, and so everything he promised to this to the leadership, he's done. And of course, haters always gonna come after that. So, do you all think they're intimidated, or do you think this is just another tactic they're using to trying to undercut the success of a black man who's in a worse situation than they are, but still making an even greater impact than they have with all the money they got, all the media, all the extra? So, do you think they're intimidated, or do you think this is just them playing chess again?
Well, it's a little bit of both, but more so, it's what you offered a little bit of both there. But primarily, the initial part of that, human nature is always to be intimidated by a stronger character, and what you see is a villainistic response to it. Uh, and if I dare say, that's really what we have to reckon with across the board as the history and the environment of America. As it relates to American culture and African American culture or people of color in general. The history of America has always been to try to pull down a person of color that is actually doing, the right thing and being very honorable in what he's doing as far as the project that he's leading. I know we're going to get into even some of the MLK piece, but just using that as a starting point, they villainized MLK. I mean, you know, it's like, how do you do this? You know what I'm saying? And anyone that comes up to the forefront, I'm sure it should be something that is really in their preparation when they're groomed to be a leader, an impact, an influencer, because they're coming. Even if we take this back home with Lowndes County and Valdosta, several shows ago, we talked about the impact that Big Nick was going to have on the school board. Before then, Tony Tong was going to be an impactful influencer. He's still, both of them are influencers, but on the stage or the platform of the Board of Education, they had and still have, if they choose to continue their fight to run during the next rounds. But they still have the opportunity to be impactful, and along with many others that can learn from their shortcomings, if you will, when it comes to that political arena. And that's just what it is. It's all politics. So when Dion does something great, in this case, notice that he started in like 2020, a couple of years ago, coaching Jackson State. Nobody said anything then. Nobody said anything last year. All right. But all of a sudden now you're seeing the result of his harvest, and now they're coming after him. That's essentially, I said before, that's just the history of the American mindset that we have to work against when it comes to Black America achieving. And it is what it is, just facts. I mean, like I said, we can go down the line and you prove me wrong as to why someone's background has to always been pulled to the front, or either in this case, trying to accuse him of doing things under the table, dirty, underhandedness. When, if at worst case scenario, the accusations really should be a mirror to what has always been accused of those Division I coaches, and all of a sudden they want to use that as a mudslinging action towards Deion Sanders when they're probably doing the same thing, if not worse, because that's what they're accusing. You know what I'm doing because you've done it before. You know how to recognize it.
Yeah.
So again, that's all it is, man. I mean, at the end of the day, this talk about the American dream. There is an American dream, but at the same time, there are American villains, and sometimes they're very obvious. And in this case, this is just obviously what American history is about.
What do you think, beautiful? I mean, I know that you've heard some things, you've seen some things. Do you feel the same way as Black? Do you feel like it's just a same trick, different pony, or do you think it's a mixture of the same trick, different pony, but also a little bit of hate, a little bit of intimidation as well?
Honestly, I think it's the same trick and the same pony in the same pony show. I mean, it's just a repeat of the same thing. I mean, this type of tactic is even used in the legal system, in the courtroom. You can put out lies and accusations and the jury hears it, they, they're going to say strike that comment or strike that statement, but they've already heard it, so it
Yeah.
can be a totally lie, and it's used to taint, the the accomplishments of the program. So whether it's the truth or the lie, he didn't care. He just trying to get it out there and serve a very selfish motive. And some say it's to solicit money for his own program, and we all know that it was to tear Coach Sanders down and his progress. But facts speak for themselves. Stats speak for themselves. So Dion, he did respond to the statement, but honestly, the stats, he really didn't have to say much. Just like you all gentlemen just said, like in 2020 to date, you could see the turnaround in the program. So hey, I think that he Sabers is not the only one that's going to be gunning for him. I think all of them are going to be gunning for him as he rises up to the top and really do the the undoable, the impossible, basically, with the program. So it's going to be a lot of heat on him. I think that the fact that he's been through it himself as a professional athlete is kind of going to help assist him with the type of heat he's carrying now. I think he's not foreign to it. I actually think he thrives in it. So yeah, I think it's a little bit of hate. It's a little bit of sabotage, but I think he's definitely the right man for the job. Like, he can handle the heat, and he has a little bit of arrogance. He got a little swag, so he's doing it with style, and they hating on him basically.
Yeah,
So
they
so
picked on the person.
what say that again, brother?
They picked on. I should have corrected what I said. I said they picked on the right person.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, and I would
He
agree.
definitely can handle the heat. I think, it just all worked together for that program. And basically, we talked about this several shows ago about the HBCUs. Like, he is being a shining light. You know what I'm saying? He's gonna be the poster child for what can happen in an HBCU program.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's exactly
But
what Cedric says here about that. Not to read it word for word, but there's an intimidation factor when it comes to HBCUs rising up, being as you said, a beacon in some sort of those prospects, as far as high school 5-star athletes going instead of from to the PWIs to the HBCUs and making them the breadwinners, if you will, when it comes to marketing and things of that nature. Just like Bo said in the beginning, all of these accomplishments that Dion set to do, he has done, within the first 2 years of his tenure, and because of that, he's really started a match, if you will, of what other HBCUs could aspire to do if they choose to. And I don't see why not, because really, it, it's going to happen. You're going to start seeing the switch when it comes to, as you already seen, people declining their offer or intent to the Division I schools that are more prosperous, with air quotes, but to HBCUs, because they see really the benefit and the impact. And the more that we have things like this, as far as conversation, as far as the importance of our athletes going in a different direction, we'll start to actually change that mindset.
yeah, I know that with this particular incident made me think of something a little more broader because something that in the article that really kind of pushed me or poked me was when he said really what he was trying to do is use us as pawns in order to get more money from his own boosters. Um, is it seeming to me that a lot of times we have to be careful when we're successful in leadership to look out for individuals that are willing to do anything, for them to get what they need or want out of the situation. I think and I also think it's important for others to speak out on our behalf. That's why I'm glad that Jimbo Fisher came out. I don't know if you heard his news, his newsroom comments that he had. He was livid. I don't know if you heard it. Excuse me, but he was livid. and he began to expose Nick Saban. He said, if any of these coaches have ever worked with Nick Saban, they will know who's actually doing what. He was speaking, he had a lot of loaded language. He wasn't directly pointing to some of the wrongdoings, but he definitely, his tone was all the way there. He was like, yeah, if you ever worked with him, you know what kind of guy he is. And he said, and Jimbo Fisher said, I've had many opportunities to go back and work with him again. He said, but I turned them down. That should tell you something. And so Jimbo Fisher kind of came out really in a way in support of Dion, but at the same time also in defense, because a lot of the other coaches that know the games that Nick Saban has played in the past, they don't want to expose him. But there's been several former players of Alabama that came out and said, hey, Nick, you don't want to do this because I know in my recruiting class XYZ you did ABC. And so I think what's going to happen with this is I think Nick Saban has really started digging a hole he can't fill up. I think it's when you dig a hole on a full moon, you can't fill it up with the same dirt. I think that's exactly what's happening to him. He's dug a hole, but he's not going to be able to fill that hole with the same dirt because of what he's pulled out of that hole, what he's exposed. And primarily that's been himself. My grandmother told me, if you dig a ditch for me, dig one for yourself. And I think he's dug one for himself by opening his mouth, trying to throw other people on the bus to get booster money. Now, if you think about the money that Alabama has, they have won national championship after national championship, and we've already talked about how they get these additional funds from from TV time, from going to the NCAA playoffs, for them having the TV time there, for them then having the national TV time for the national championship game, all of those contracts they get through all of those different businesses. Alabama ain't hurting for money. They are not hurting for money. It has been said that even a lot of their facilities, they've said a lot of NFL coaches don't even draft a lot of the Alabama football players because Alabama's facilities are so head and shoulders above everybody else. Even some NFL teams don't
Mhm.
have the facilities that Alabama has. And
Mhm.
so Alabama ain't hurting for no money. I
Absolutely, absolutely.
I
And
think
in the USA Today article, the Jackson State athletic department spent 10,531 949. Oh, and that's pales in comparison to Alabama, $173 million.
Hmm.
So and you would want, like you said, like the point you was making, which such an expensive budget and all the top of the line technologies. Why do you feel you need to sling mud at a lesser program, especially if you're trying to say that there's a lesser program? Why the mudslinging?
and
Mhm.
there's mudslinging because you're intimidated. It's mudslinging because even though you got all this money, Dion has something that Nick will never have, and that's a stellar athletic career that has followed him through two sports. And on top of that, this man still holds the respect of so many different people, even after not playing, and still can go out and tell people like it is, and
Mhm.
people still want to follow him. Nick can't do that. Me as a former college athlete, um, I could always sense when a coach was blowing it up my backside. I could always sense. I could sense it. I could always tell when you're just talking because you're just trying to get me on your team. I could tell the difference between a coach who was really concerned about me, and the reason I could is because I had coaches like that. I had coaches who really knew my heart, who really had my best interest at heart. They understood what I needed. A lot of the coaches that come to our homes that don't look like us, weren't raised in areas that we were raised. Half of them don't even play the position that they're coming recruiting us for. When they come to our home, we can tell they're uncomfortable. We can tell that they're putting on a different something just to come in, to sell your team. Because if you didn't have a scholarship to offer me, you never would have come to my home. And so Dion has something very different. because Dion grew up like us. Dion grew up, in neighborhoods like us. He understands how our people activate. He understands what goes on in our communities. And so Nick Saban is intimidated. The top juggernaut coach who has set the stage. People look at him higher than Bear Bryant, higher than Vince Lombardi. They look at him as the man. And this guy is still, and I'm so glad you brought that data. This guy has $120 more million to spend, and yet he's using a little old black coach from JSU to get him some more money. So I don't know. I don't know. I mean, is this something that we as people of color should expect when we get to leadership?
Well,
Absolutely. You
you,
better.
you you bring a good point, and I get you right. We better, and but why do we have to put up with that? And because you're right, we better expect it. But it's like, how does it change? One of the things that strikes me very much so, and I'm shifting as far as at the example, but the same type of theories. Goes with, like, say, for instance, since this Lounge Side track team, by the way, I think I missed this over the last couple of weeks sharing it. The girls track team at Lounge High School won state. Did y'all know that? Did you know that, bro? I see
No.
Suzette. The girls track team went up to North Georgia and won state.
Yeah.
Why
So
they what?
yeah.
I knew.
So yeah, it's,
Wow.
it's it's a little untold secret. Just as I think it was in the paper. So I mean, I'm just saying, but it's things like that to where it strikes me as odd to where we ran on the Lounge High track. Not much has changed. It's got a new surface, but still dated in respect to other surfaces like at Valdosta High School, the new one, and Colquitt County, as well as Tiff. Been to those this season, but it pales in comparison to the compounds of the rest of the sports at and that's nothing new. The track program has always been substandard with regards to the resources they have, and they always win, right? And so it just strikes me as odd to where we can have programs like that, just like this JSU program, and then still have to fight for an equal footing, even with, like you said, winning with much less resources, and then still have to deal with, in this case, the mudslinging that occurs because you don't want us on the same platform with you and we don't have the right resources, but still are making out, from an equitable standpoint, we're making out much better and proving ourselves much more at a rate that's faster than you've seen ever. And you still have to try to tear it down. It's just odd that happens. I don't know. It's terrible.
It is. Go ahead. Go ahead, beautiful.
No, no, I would agree and concur that it is odd, but I wouldn't say that is not uncommon. I mean,
Yeah.
we live in America, KKK, so it is what it is. But I think that one of the major reasons he's mudslinging because he cannot explain it. How can you explain that this $10 million program is outshining your $173 million program? You can't explain that,
173.
especially when he's pulling out all the dirty tricks in the book, and he just can't explain that. So a lot of times when people can't explain something, they're gonna, ridicule it, and as Brother Black said, villainize it. So yeah, it is what it is. But one thing that I am so encouraged and so excited by is the fact again that it's Dion, and it's Dion Sanders. So like he really uses it as fuel to kind of propel his program, and now a lot of students and he might have experienced it. A lot of students are bypassing some of those schools to go to Dion's school
Yeah.
and go to be under his leadership. So I think it's a good movement, and he's leading the pack. I'm
Well,
excited about
I definitely would agree, and I would encourage, just as a former D1 athlete, I would encourage a lot of our students, a lot of our children, within our communities to definitely consider HBCUs. And I will give you a firsthand experience. It was difficult for them to relate to me. It was difficult all my 4 years there, or 4.5 years there. Um, Even with black coaches, I never really felt a connection to my college. Um, Never really felt a real connection to my coaches. Not like I had in high school. I never really felt like they were really there for me as a person. I felt like in many occasions that they had to be there because of the financial investment they had in me. But on top of that, I really don't. I never felt like it was genuine. And I get it. Because you get a scholarship and you're supposed to go there and perform. You have a duty, to fulfill. I get that. But it was very different. It was very different when it came to my connection to my coaches and in the sport that I love. And so I would encourage all of you all to really consider. A lot of people don't know that I really wanted to go to FAM. I was really, 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 really pushing to go to FAM. It was FAM, and then I thought about Morehouse, but FAM was always my first option. I had been going to FAM homecoming since I was a kid. Every year we would go, and so I saw the attraction, I saw the connection, I saw, the people that were there, like they were really there, for those homecoming games. And so, I don't know. When I got there, the crowd was huge, great. We traveled, you know, cool, 60,000 students, cool. But at the end of the day, did I feel like my coach could call my mother and really have a conversation about my current status and really be heartfelt about it? I don't think so. And so that's why I would definitely encourage them to do so. I wasn't connected to much at my school. It was everything didn't seem like it was a part of me. It was a part of another group, which is why they call them PWIs. And so I never felt connected outside of the teammates that I had. And so I definitely would encourage anybody to consider an HBC, especially now where the limelight is on us. The cameras are pointing towards us. I think Eddie George, I think now is being considered for head coach at Tennessee State. There's a couple of other Hall of Famers that they're looking for now as head coaches, for other HBCUs. So this is a wave that's not going anywhere. So I definitely would encourage, don't let Kevin Coleman and Travis Hunter be the first guys that had every opportunity to go to a D1, but they chose HBCU. Look at Walter Payton. Look at Jerry Rice. Look at Steve McNair. I mean, we can go even look at Randy Moss. I mean, he went to Marshall, but he had opportunities to go to HBCUs. So there's a lot of other opportunities. So
Yeah, I'm just first of all, I totally agree with you. Some of our viewers are chiming in. Our very loyal viewer Cedric said his son and his money goes to FAMU. So we need to think about that. But
oh
I,
yeah,
I really think a lot of the student athletes, at least historically and in the past, they went to PWIs because it was a strategic move.
yeah,
They were thinking about the end goal. But I think that Deion Sanders is rewriting that so that,
yeah,
HBCUs are really getting the limelight and letting them know that you still can attend a
yeah,
HBCU and still reach your end goal, your professional goal that you're trying to reach. So I think it's such an exciting time. And we kind of were talking about it prior to it blowing up in the headlines this
yeah,
week. We have been talking about this moment. And now that it's here and arrived, it's really exciting to see play out. And we kind of expected the haters, when you get to a certain level in the game, you kind of expect that.
yeah.
Don't you think?
Good. You
Yeah.
should.
I
I
mean,
think you
it's
should.
like I said before, it's typical. It's across the board typical. I mean, when we have businesses that we historically haven't supported, but then all of a sudden there's this buy black movement that we've seen thrust since 2020. You'll see, people wonder how we are making our businesses better. How are we winning contracts? Everything. I've heard the stories, whereas, black businesses are winning government contracts and or municipality contracts, and those at the decision making table are putting them through the rigor to make sure that they really won the contract and how they won the contract. So it happens across the board. It's like I said, if you could write a book, it would just be a template that it seems like that is being used by sometimes with our counterparts, is that they pretty much, it's like art of war, if you will, just the way that their strategies work. So just be ready for it, be prepared, and have your supporting cast there with you.
Yeah, I think we better. I think that'll be the best thing for us. So we want y'all to make sure you all continue to support Brother Dion. Listen, it's going to be another amazing season. They had a really good spring game. They got a lot of things going. Listen, I'm ready to see Mr. Hunter. I'm ready to see him on Saturday because I know it's going to be real good. And I think Dion. This is going to be Dion's protege, as far as pushing him to the limelight and teaching him how to do it right. So be on the lookout for JSU. Support them if you can. If you have a Fire Stick, or if you've got the NCAA subscription, find you an HBCU, give them the views on ESPN, ESPN1, ESPNU, all those NCAA channels. Find your HBCU, just turn the game on and walk off if you're not going to watch it. Give them the views at least, so they can continue to get more views and get more traction, so we can start seeing them on Saturdays too. So shout out to Coach Dion.
Yep.
We appreciate you, and definitely looking for greater things coming our way. But as we transition, we got another great question. Don't forget, those that are watching Facebook and YouTube, don't forget to ask your questions. Don't forget to comment. If you're Ninja watching, go ahead and give me the HBO special. Go ahead and hit the like button. Subscribe to, anytime, you get some of this great content. Also share it. Let somebody else know. Let somebody else experience what it is that you're enjoying every Tuesday night. But we're about to transition to another great topic. And it's talking about leadership. This is another question that I shared with Beautiful, and she was like, I don't know if I want to talk about that one. Yeah, she was so hesitant about it, but we're going to talk about it. And basically, it comes from the sister B. Simone. She had she on her podcast. She and her partner, they were talking about leadership, and she asked a certain question about leadership. And what I want to do is I just want to play it so you can hear it for yourself, so we can have a discussion about what B. Simone said when it comes to being a good leader. So I'm just going to play the audio. So here it is. I might be able. Can I share that, my brother? I just want to share the audio. I don't want to share.
If you got a file, you can open it up.
Yeah. Okay. I'll go ahead and take care of that quick. All right. I'm ready. I'll go ahead and share this with y'all really quickly. Here it is.
Any further delay, let's get into it.
What's more important, the fact that Martin Luther King is the man that fought for freedom, or the fact that he was cheating on his wife?
Jesus. I'm going to give you this example. He's a great father. He's a great businessman. He's a great CEO. He's an entrepreneur. He's such a boss. He's a boss. Look at that man. He's a boss. He's a great father. Look at him, that strong black man.
Look at him being at his kid's game.
But you're cheating on your wife. You're not a good husband. But he's great in all these other aspects.
What?
How are you a great leader?
Wait,
CEO,
what?
A great black man. You're not great. You're not great.
What?
God, you're not. That is triggering.
Yeah.
Oh, well, I'm a good dad. You're not a good dad because you don't respect me. How the fuck you showing these kids you a good father and you don't respect their mother? You're not a great dad, my nigga. You're an okay human.
Someone being a good person to you means they're a good person to you. Someone being a good person to everyone means that they're a good person.
Wow.
So what do y'all think about that? She said that Martin Luther King wasn't a good man. He wasn't a good person because of the history that he had with his infidelity. And so I got to ask the question, do black men have to be perfect to lead? Because for all of this time, We have heard, Martin Luther King is on every church fan. He's, every year, we
He's the pillar of Black History Month, bruh.
that we,
He's the
yeah,
first person, about the only person that most of our kids know.
I was about to go there. Like, this guy is Black History Month personified. He is the man. Okay. But it seems like Black people, and I say Black people or people of color, indigenous folk, I would say we have an issue with our Messiah complex.
Yeah.
I think we have a
Black folks,
huge,
by the way, not just Black folks.
just us. We have a huge problem with the Messiah complex, thinking that leadership has to be perfect in order for it to be respected, in order for it to be lauded and heralded as a good leader. You have to be absolutely flawless. And I think it has a lot to do with our connection to our Bible readers. That now, because of Jesus in Scripture, who was a leader, I think the only people that, because of our connection and our affinity for our Bible and our characters in our Bible, we feel like every other leader has to be perfect, from pastors to politicians to anybody that wants to assume the position of being a leader. They cannot have any flaws. They cannot make mistakes. They cannot be human. They have to be perfect. And so,
But we only do that. But we only do that to ourselves, though.
Well, that's what I'm saying.
We don't criticize other ethnic groups or basically counterparts. We don't criticize them as much as we criticize our leaders, and that's really the position I take on it. And again, great question, great content, by the way, as far as bringing that up, because it's one of those other things that's really just a segment of what we do across the board. It's the same thing we do in business. We criticize our own business owners or businesses, brands, much more than we do the mainstream businesses owned by our counterparts. And we'll go into a business and tear it down verbally, don't come back, but we'll take shoddy service or disrespectful non-service from a Korean hair shop or whatnot, stereotypically saying that, but we will just not do business with our own because of this complex. And like you said, some of it is Bible Belt based, some of it is House Negro affinity based, whereas the House Negro was is in the big house, and the field Negro is jealous of that Negro in the house, and we got to tear him down. It's also the whole symptom of crabs in the barrel. All these things that we actually know to be true in history, but it's sad, the insanity of it, that we're still doing the same thing. What say you, Suzette? I heard that he shared this with you earlier before the show, so I'd like to know your thoughts. What were some let's get ready to rumble thoughts you had?
First of all,
let's make the viewers know why they should come to this show.
Let's do that. Well, first of all, disclaimer for those who are ninja watching and just popping in, that was not me. Okay, that was an audio clip. It was not me. I agree with one of our viewers. We had Jarkada chime in tonight, and she said you have to separate the man from the work. He was a leader, and so my hesitancy about even including this audio clip into tonight's show is I did not want to tear down or further perpetuate the tarnishing part of this statement that she made. I mean, he was a man. I, if you analyze every area of not only him but everybody on this earth, you're gonna find some skeletons in the closet, or you're gonna find some not so very admirable characteristics if you look hard enough. So, I'm kind of like Drake. I didn't want to focus on his private life. I really wanted to make sure that we rewrite the narrative of the stereotypes, because some people will hear that and be like, oh, that's typical black man stuff, that's typical whatever. But, his good far tremendously outweighed whatever situation was in his marital status. And at the end of the day, Coretta Scott, she still chose to be his wife, and she's still carrying on his legacy, until, y- I mean, her legacy, his legacy and hers are still going on pretty strong. So with their foundations. So I was hesitant about bringing it because I did not want to tear down the legacy of the King family. However, I do feel like it is a conversation that needs to be had
That's what I
because
was.
we need to stop doing that. We need to stop, slandering the character of the person because they have a flaw. You found out they have a flaw. Oh, you found out they were human, so they were human after all, huh? So that's how I feel about it, and I agree with Jarkay. We need to separate the man from the work.
I agree
So
with you wholeheartedly as far as the fact that we need to deal with it. I understand. That's what I would say. As I understand the hesitancy and the caution over the legacy, but the legacy is what it is. It can't be removed.
right,
I would say that sometimes you have to do that 8 Mile Eminem type perspective and just
yeah,
put it out there before everybody else talks about it. And I like that approach. I want people to know that he did have some difficulties being, faithful, if you will. But meanwhile, here's what he did as far as the right things, So, I mean, again, he's a man. I mean, I'm not saying that excuses anything. What the point is that are we going to be surprised about that, or are we going to be surprised how much he overcame? I mean,
right,
we focusing on the wrong thing if that's what somebody's making a video about. I mean,
yeah.
because clearly, like you said, his works are much more greater than the fault in that case that he had.
Right, right. And don't get me wrong now. Don't get it twisted. I'm not condoning him and his
Absolutely.
infidelities, but it's just that a lot of people try to sift through the wheat and find all the flaws, in it instead of focusing on and the fact that the young lady on the audio clip, she was like, "My nigga." It's like, why you talking
Right.
about Dr. King like that? Why?
I mean, are you surprised though, based on the content?
Right. Why you being
Well,
so disrespectful? So it's kind of like that clip from Color Purple. It's like nobody better not talk about Miss Jenkins. Y'all remember that?
right,
Like
exactly.
don't be talking about
Right.
Dr. King now. Don't be talking about him.
So
So
here's the
yeah,
thing.
it was hard for me to hear that because like you said, for years and basically my entire life, he has been this pillar in the community, and to hear somebody tear him down like that, it was difficult to hear.
Yeah. I mean, to me, I was like, all right, try again. I mean, try something else. I mean, it's to me, it's not difficult to hear as a man because clearly we've all sort of witnessed something or another in that realm, and we're stereotyped for it anyway. So it's to me not difficult like those things that come with it because what else you got? That's the only ammunition you have after the man has done what he's done decades ago, and this is how you want to deal with his legacy. But we just had a president, come through 45, and did I see this outspoken young lady be outspoken about that president and his shortcomings? No. So the problem is that you look at really the quality of the person that is making all these not accusations, but just wanting to call out these things as if it's newsworthy, and we have to rethink our leaders. Meanwhile, we got a national president, at the time 45, that has some obviously questionable backgrounds with dealing with females and how he treats and disrespects women. But we're not outspoken about that, and that's what I mean is that we'll go into a restaurant and be outspoken about said person. I mean, I get it. There are sometimes shortcomings that I see inside of black establishments, but I'm not posting that stuff and putting it out there rather than, oh, I just went into McDonald's and I didn't do anything then. So if you're going to be one type of person that's outspoken, be that way with our counterparts as well.
Exactly. Be consistent. But my thing is the level of inconsistency. So for a black establishment, you would go to the ends of the earth. You're gonna call the Better Business Bureau. You're gonna put it on Facebook. You're gonna put them on blast. You're gonna throw them all the way under the bus. And like you said, for other establishments, it's like, hey, can you you made a mistake. Can you put my name on the list and I'll come through and get something free the next time I ride through? Come on, so much forgiveness for the other folks, and we really need to change that narrative, change that mindset, because ultimately we're tearing ourselves down. We're tearing ourselves down.
Well, I
It's
wanted.
really a small it's really a small form of genocide, I believe.
Well, this is my problem with it. Is because this podcast has over 800,000 subscribers and growing, and I wanted to look through the comments, and sadly, of course, we know it's a female podcast, so it would be safe to assume. I don't have all the analytics, so I'm just assuming that the majority of their followers are female. Um, and looking at the majority of the comments, these were posted by those that posted pictures that are female. A lot of them are in support. I just want to read one. Um, she says that I'm only 27 minutes in, and I had to pause this about 4 times to take in everything that was being said. Listen, knowing who you are and your calling is so important. Not everyone is supposed to be the face, and if the someone who is meant to be in the background tries to be the face, they won't thrive because that's not your calling, and vice versa.
These are people who
It's,
don't know history, by the way. I
yes,
mean, like Martin Luther King said, I've got to be the person. I want to be the person. I mean, that's what ticks me off. None of these people have really dove into history and actually studied the context of what made Martin Luther King great and how he got to that position.
being accepted
It was
into
in the
Morehouse,
background.
being accepted at the Morehouse at 15, getting his PhD at 26 during the time where black men weren't doing this on a mass scale. He was pushed into the limelight,
Right.
and he accepted the weight of being the Black Messiah. Is what was it, Nixon? Or not, one of them called him and Malcolm. And if you think about what else, I think that was LBJ during this time. But if you think about all of the other things that this young man was thrown into, and yet all that he accomplished, is still noteworthy. But seemingly, when black men get in leadership, we have this desire to want to sift his character to the point where if we find any small inconsistency in your humanity, we cannot accept your leadership. I've seen this firsthand as a faith-based leader in my community. I have been ostracized, I have been lied on, I have been a lot of things, and they've been untrue, and yet people would rather push the foolishness, because when you have someone who has the potential to be a leader, because we're broken, a lot of the times we can't accept the other people, especially our leaders, being more whole than we are. We will find anything to tear our leadership down, and that we saw that in many elections. Well, when Raphael Warnock came up, he was another brother who was running. What did we immediately do? We went to his past. We went through all this other extra stuff that had nothing to do with the present. Whether you liked him or not, the situation remained the same. When Barack Obama came up, we had so many people that were running through his history and all this other stuff. And when you couldn't find the stuff you were looking for, then you wanted to kind of perpetuate gossip for the most part. It's like we do this over and over and over again, but it's not just for those that are in community leadership, because I asked the question the way I wanted to ask it, because a husband is the leader of his home. A father is the leader of his family. But if B. Simone would call Martin Luther King my nigga, you aren't a good man because you don't respect me. You aren't a good man because you have flaws. You aren't a good man because you make mistakes. How in the world could a average black man expect to have any kind of respect as the leader of his home when our counterparts of this day don't even respect MLK? So if we can't even get respect from one of our pioneers who helped deliver a people, how can I, as a single black man, in my community, when I say single, I mean just one, a Black man, expect to have any type of support and love from the people in my own community who know I'm human. I have flaws. I have a past. I have issues. But so do you. So are we expecting our fathers, whether married or not, in the community, whether a mentor or not, a teacher or not, principal or not, do they have to be flawless? Because it seems as if every time we talk about men in leadership, especially men of color, we bring up their flaws. And Donald Trump has a lot of flaws. Been divorced, married 4 times or something like that. And he's still getting support from the masses. His wife currently still stands right there and supports him. Yet B. Simone, with 800,000 followers and counting, is spinning a poisonous narrative that even Martin Luther King can't get respect as being a leader. So should the average Black man expect to be perfect or strive to be perfect before he decides to lead a family or have a family?
Well, first of all, if that is what he is striving for, he's already failed, because there is no one, I repeat, no living person on this earth that is perfect. That just does not exist. But I will say that as an African American, we are very cynical and very negative towards our leadership. But in terms of B. Simone, um, versus myself, the level of respect I have for Dr. Martin Luther King and all Black men, and basically, in my day, it was called the elders. The respect that I gained, I was taught that from my previous generation. You know what I'm saying? So I was taught that. So I'm definitely not cutting any slack to B. Simone. I think she was wrong. I do not agree with her at all. But we have to teach that lesson of respect. You know what I'm saying? We have to teach that lesson that no man is perfect, and you have to focus on making the main thing the main thing. I mean, if B. Simone was to open up her life as an open book, I'm sure we're gonna find some flaws in her resume as well. So, I think that comes back, and we talk about it all the time. And you gentlemen not only talk about it, but you practice it as well. When you teach from the inside out, when you teach from your home outwards, and then your circle of influence, you wouldn't even produce someone who would be making these statements that B. Simone is making, because you will already know that yes, he might have been guilty of that, but what is the main thing that he did? And then some, just like you forementioned, going to college at age 15, he's still achieving things that their generation, B. Simone's generation, is still unable to achieve. And I think one of the major things is oftentimes individuals are trying to hold leaderships to standards that they themselves are not even willing to comply to. So I think it comes from the teaching, the learning. We have to make sure that we expose people like B. Simone, and this, um, you know, not subscribe to the poison that she's putting out, and make sure that our circle of influence and our young people know that this is not the case. You're not going to find any perfect person on earth, but you're going to do, you're teaching and you're living to be the best version of yourself you can be, and in an improved version every day. Yeah.
I know that. I mean, I would agree with you when you talk about um, highlighting this behavior and definitely speaking out against it. I think that's the issue that I have with a lot of things that are said through with a lot of vitriol when it comes to Black men, especially. I feel like a lot of times you know uh, the ridicule of I'll just say Black men and women. A lot of times we get a lot of flack and we get a lot of pushback, but we don't get a lot of support and defense. Like Jimbo came out for Dion. Jimbo Fisher didn't do it, behind closed doors. because one thing I didn't mention was Nick Saban tried to call Deion privately to discuss it and to kind of dismiss it. And Deion basically said, "Nah, bro, you said that on a public platform. This needs to be handled on a public platform." I think the same thing needs to be done with statements like this. Kind of like the statement that Vivica Fox made about KS. This is karma coming to your front door. Mad because you were the hit dog that hollered when it came to the information that he was sharing. You were the epitome of what he was talking about. Yet, you felt vindicated, when he lost his life, but your status and situation hasn't changed. And so I think we have to still hold these other individuals accountable and hold them to the fire. But at the same time, we should be just as boisterous and just as loud with our disregard to this type of this type of commentary. Like it's hurtful, it's dangerous, because at this point, I really think I think it highlights a fault within her. I think that this is pain, and this is an issue that she's speaking out because she hasn't found anyone that's lived up to whatever it was that they should have lived up to, whether it was a promise or a character that she's never experienced for herself. I think this is just inward pain being expressed through MLK as the example. That's what's my perspective. I think she's projecting.
Absolutely. Absolutely. One of our viewers tonight, Miss Janae Ty, she said black women are the black men's worst critic, in my opinion. And I'm so sad, but that she's speaking the truth. I totally agree with her with that. We are the hardest on our black men. So
why do you think that's the case? Why do you think that?
because of the statement you just made, we usually are expressing hurt people.
Yeah.
So I think a lot of black women have felt betrayed and hurt by their black men, and so they just lump them all in the same category, which is unfair, because not only are we doing damage to our own race, but the outside world sees that, and they're already tearing our race down, and then you're getting attacked from the outside world and from the inside out. So it's definitely a hard plight to live out. Yeah.
I really, I think that this type of talk, I think, is probably one of the top 3 reasons why we have such a hard time moving forward in male-female relationships in our community, because again, we're holding people to standards that we cannot hold ourselves to. I think there's and this is just my opinion, and I could be wrong, and I'm subject to be wrong, and I'm willing to have the conversation. I think that a lot of our sisters are expecting a level of perfection that they cannot provide themselves. This is just me speaking out of experience, out of having conversations, out of counseling, many different couples, married and unmarried. I think that there's a very high standard that our sisters hold our brothers up to that they don't hold other men up to. And at the same time, I think that they hold those standards so high because they know they cannot walk out those standards, or I think they do it because if they find a man of that stature, that's the only man they've told themselves they'll respect, whether through past hurts, whether through past pain, whether through past letdown from an absent father or an uncooperative co-parent or whatever it may be. I think those situations kind of come to a head, but when we kind of lump everybody up into one damning statement to say, Martin Luther King, my nigga, you're not perfect. You're not a good man. And so every other man has to walk at such a high stature just for you to look at him as a man. I think that's I think that's really, really harmful. I think it's really, really troubling. And I think it's borderline delusional. Because at that point, you're holding a man up to a standard that you're not even willing to even try to stand to. Am I wrong about that? I mean, is there any truth on your side, beautiful, as a woman?
Well, I definitely don't speak in absolute, so I wouldn't say that all.
In generality,
Yeah,
yeah.
even in general, I don't know, but I do think that.
Ah, don't do that. Don't do that.
let
Don't do that.
let me
Don't,
answer that.
don't make it an anecdotal. Well, I don't know. Me.
I did say I was gonna let you show out tonight, so I'm gonna let you. I'm gonna let
Speak,
you do your
speak
thing.
for speak for a certain
No,
demographic that
you
willing
know,
to do.
I'm feeling very Nubian tonight, so I'm gonna take on the whole black woman species. Okay, so yeah, I will say that when you deflect and you point out somebody else's flaws, that that kind of lets you relieves you. You know what I'm saying, from working on yourself. So I think that's a lot of going on, a lot of deflection like you said, I'm an advocate, just like the young ladies we had on several weeks ago. I'm an advocate of mental health, so that's like a mental health component when you're constantly, deflecting on what somebody else's flaws are. Like you need to work on yourself. So all our black queens and our black men, I think we need to take the time to really face those demons that are in, and really work through that and make sure that you are a better person so that you won't have to always point out somebody else's flaws. You'll be okay accepting the responsibility in the work that I need to do for myself. And honestly, I think when you do your self work, it helps you to identify who your counterpart will be. You won't necessarily focus on those flaws, but you'll be able to identify what's for you, what's not for you. And even, you might be able to assist somebody with the process, like whatever it took for you to become whole and healed, you can pass that on. So I just think that a lot of our generation, old and new, are very selfish now. So it's like it's somebody else's fault. I'm not going to take, that sense of entitlement, that sense of you not taking responsibility. I think is growing
Yeah,
in our community. And I think that's the major part of the problem. Nobody wants to take responsibility for where, and fix themselves. So
yeah,
that would be my advice. Like, fix yourself. Black women, make sure that you're whole and healthy and mentally stable before you start throwing darts at our black men. Like, I personally take the role is if you're not going to help someone, don't hurt them. Don't hurt them. If you're not there to help, don't hurt. So yeah, we need to revamp how we care for each other and love on each other because our younger generation is watching. You know what I'm saying? So they're emulating all this hate that's going around and all this mudslinging. I mean, Deion Sanders' situation is proof enough. Like we have outside of our community, we have enough people that's targeting us as a people. We don't necessarily need to tear ourselves down from within. So
right.
yeah, that's my stance on it. Like yeah, I think African American women, we need to do a better job of supporting um our black men. And if you feel that he does have flaws, just like I tell my youth, if you're gonna come to me with a problem, you better have considered a couple of solutions. Don't come to me with just a problem. I want to hear what you think the solution might be. So if we're gonna tear our black men down, which I don't recommend, but give him some solutions on how to make himself better. That's my stance. And
Well, well,
yeah, that's my stance. I'm sticking to it.
this this message has been brought by the black in the bowl. We approve this message.
Thank you.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I would say the same thing to the brothers, just in retrospect, the same thing, just looking at it, make sure that, you're holding yourself to a higher standard.
Yeah.
Make sure that, you find your flaws and you fix them, but also, you make sure that you're able to be in a position where you can choose better. So you can stand firm and you can be, the man that you need to be. And a lot of times, sometimes I've noticed that the nagging sometimes in many occasions can be substantiated, because a lot of times we are inconsistent. A lot of times we do send out false flags, and we are manipulative. But that's across the board. Men and women do the same. But I really believe that it beautiful was saying, that if we all hold ourselves accountable and fix ourselves and put ourselves in a better position, I think we will be able to see each other in a much better light, instead of saying, you ain't perfect, my nigga. You know what I'm saying? Like, come on, we got to do better. So we encourage.
Boy, that she need a whooping. She need
Yeah.
a whooping, boy. We're gonna take it back to the country on her. You need a whooping, girl.
But we're gonna keep tabs on that to see if anybody comes out to give her verbal lashing. I doubt it. They let Lizzo get away with so much, so I doubt if they're going to say anything about this. But I think we need to do it in our households, to really abhor this, and really let our family and especially our little girls know that this is not what you look for out of a man. You do not look for a perfect man. You look for a man that's striving to be, and that's a big difference. But yeah, I don't know. Let us know what you think about that. You have any comments or whatever, send us an email, put it in the chat. Let us know if both of us are off, if you didn't like my comment, or I don't know. I don't know whatever it is, but just have some interaction. Let us know how you feel about it. Well, now it's that time. We're going to transition into our last question, which is tied to our show topic. This was another thing that was really, really controversial, but I think it's a good topic to discuss. And it is: are we too emotionally unavailable to accept real love from others? This was brought up through a post that I saw on Instagram, and I just want to share it with you all. I'm gonna play the audio. Let me know what you think about it. If she's true or not.
You haven't met all the people who are going to love you in your life yet. And so when you meet all these people who are going to love you, they do not want to meet a vengeful person. Okay? Because they're going to get the overflow of that vengefulness. As a matter of fact, they're not going to get the overflow of that vengefulness. They're going to get nothing. They're going to go so far with you, and then it's going to stop. I've been with those people. They're called emotionally unavailable.
What do y'all think about that? I know that being emotionally unavailable is a buzzword that we've heard a whole lot, especially on relationship topics. People being emotionally unavailable. So what I did was I actually did a little bit of Google searching, about emotional unavailability. And what it really means is an unemotional available person is a person who has persistent difficulty expressing or handling their emotions, or they have a difficulty in getting emotional or getting emotionally close to other people. Everyone is different and may express their emotional unavailability in their own specific ways. But I did find out that when you're emotionally unavailable, there are usually five things or five symptoms that you can spot someone being emotionally unavailable. And we're going to get down into those, but I know the first one, when they say somebody is emotionally unavailable, is that when they avoid intimacy. That's going to be a big one. We're going to get into a little bit, but we got to talk about that before we leave. But do you all agree with her that the majority of the times when we actually get into a contact, a relationship with someone, a friendship with someone, a lot of times we're battling our own emotional scars and our own emotional trauma, to the point where we try to mask that trauma through new relationships instead of taking our time to really deal with ourselves? Or do we even think we're emotionally unavailable from the beginning? Let's start there. Do you think people really know that they're emotionally unavailable?
Absolutely. I think people know. I think that term emotionally unavailable is new. I think in the past we termed it as having our guard up or having walls up that people couldn't penetrate. So now I think that emotionally unavailable is a deep dive into a explanation of why we do what we do. So yeah, I think people know. I think, of course, people know. We have a viewer tonight. Jarkay says, "Yes, I'm that person. I'm working on it." She is working on it though. She good job. But she says she has a tendency to self-sabotage relationships and push people away. So I do feel like you know when you're emotionally unavailable. I'm not sure if you can control, you know what I'm saying? I think you know it, but I don't know if you can control it all the time. In terms of stopping it and starting it. Like I don't know if you can control it, but I do think you can identify when you are emotionally unavailable.
What do you think, Brother Black? I mean, do you think that people walk into relationships or connections knowing full well that they're emotionally unavailable, or do you think they go into these situations knowing that they may be struggling or they may have struggles with feeling a certain way or expressing certain secrets or certain information or certain emotional language? I mean, I don't know. I mean, how do you feel about it?
I think people walk into relationships not knowing a whole lot about themselves. Starting right there, that being an opening statement. Um, I think as you go over time, you realize your upbringing, your past relationships, what you were praised for, and what you were put on pedestals for, being the strong, pillar, if you will. And sometimes that means being someone who's emotionally detached. Sometimes that's being somebody where the water rolls off your back, if you will, when it comes to conflict and disagreement, or what have you, like of that nature. And then if eventually along the way, if you're fortunate, um, it comes to a head where you actually realize how emotionally unavailable you've been the whole while. And I think I agree, but slightly disagree with beautiful and respectfully, excuse me. But in just that, I come from a stance where I think that once you recognize it, realize that you are emotionally unavailable at times, I think that there's an accountability that must take place where you need to change that. Some people are just set in their ways. So basically, partial to what you're saying is that yes, some people who are stubborn in their ways, and I've seen it, um, where they can't change. Yeah, but I think if someone's mature enough in a relationship to where they want what's best for the relationship, they should and will change.
I would have to agree. I agree with you when at the onset when you were saying that most of us do enter in relationships not really knowing ourselves. I looked into this a little bit, and I found out that actually the way that they discover if someone is emotionally unavailable, they have to study their something. Well, it's actually derived out of their something called an attachment theory. Well, basically, it talks about how you bonded with your primary caregiver as a
Mhm.
child.
Right.
And they said that basically, your attachment or your bond, with your primary caregivers sets the foundation, on how you navigate relationships throughout your life. And so, basically, what it does is, the theory states the primary goal of a human infant is to maintain proximity to its caregiver, which is necessary for their survival during their evolution. And so basically what they're saying was somewhere in your childhood to some degree there was a proximity to a caregiver that you were not receiving on a consistent basis. And so you basically kind of learned how to navigate and what's the word I'm looking for? Substitute what you were not getting with putting up basically an emotional wall inwardly to tell yourself, I'll be okay if I don't get it right now. But you know what I'm saying? I'll figure it out myself. Or if someone didn't give you the attachment you were looking for, you found a way to give yourself that attachment through detaching or through isolation or through being a loner. or through putting up walls in certain areas that you felt that were vulnerable prior to. And so I think a lot of us are suffering from emotional unavailability because of the attachments that we had or did not have as a child. A lot of people in Black communities suffer from emotional unavailability because 80% of our children are born in disruptive homes, in broken homes. And we don't have that balance of parenting, nor do we have the balance of life. A lot of single mothers are working a lot, they have a lot on their plate. And so being a parent is just another task on their plate to make sure that everything goes right, from having somewhere to stay, some having food on the table, having a steady income with a job or what have you, and then having children, all of the extras that come along with it, and the fathers as well. I think that a lot of us are brought up, with attachment issues when it comes with us really having a balance of proximity to our primary caregivers, especially parents who have to work 2 and 3 jobs. How many times have we seen on television shows or when somebody makes it big, they talk about, I come from a single parent home and my mom worked 3 jobs and she was hardly ever there, but she took care of us, not realizing that's us basically confessing that we're suffering from PTSD, that we have something on the inside of us that we've had to adjust or juggle on our own to give ourselves some form of equilibrium to say we survived the situation. And so we take this baggage with us into relationships, not knowing that, when we are emotionally available, not only do we avoid intimacy, but we avoid commitment. You know what I'm saying?
Exactly. And that was my point into saying that I feel that people are aware that
Mhm.
they are emotionally unavailable because number one, the statistics are saying that marriages, the percentage in people getting marriages is dropping. People are
Dramatic.
no longer seeking to marry each other. So like they're in a relationship knowing that they're not going to commit to this person, which to me equates, they know at some point you're emotionally unavailable in some areas. Your partner's not going to break through to you in that emotional area. And then just having an opportunity to interact with some of the younger generation, a lot of them will tell you like, I'm not going to let anybody break my heart, or I'm not going to let anybody get that close to me. So I think people are aware, more aware than what they would be willing to admit, that they are emotionally unavailable. And to me, I take the stance that you are the first person who knows before anybody else does if you are emotionally unavailable. Like you already know, like in your heart of hearts, like I kind of like this person, but I don't know if I like them enough to make a life with them, or something like that. So I think people are. I honestly believe that people are aware that they are emotionally unavailable. I think that they don't know how to address that issue without seeking professional help. I think that might be a component of it, but I do think that they are aware that at some point or some level they are emotionally unavailable.
So by you saying that, and I'm glad you said it that way, because I agree. I agree that a lot of us, I think we have some form of awareness, that we have some emotional issues. But when you said a lot of people, we kind of put people on, we kind of keep them at a distance because we know there's something that's gonna be required of us to give to that situation that we're not fully
Yeah,
certain that we're willing to do that.
absolutely.
Do you
And
think do you think that people, okay, let me add this before I ask this question, because there are a lot of people that when they go into a relationship they say, well, I'm just doing me right now.
mhm.
Do you think them doing them is also a part, or a part and parcel of them also knowing that they've got some emotional unavailability that they're unwilling to
Abso-
deal with?
Absolutely, because when someone's saying, "Hey, I'm just going to do me for a minute," you're automatically telling that person, your counterpart, you're already telling them like, this is me, this is my little box, you're not invited to it, this is mine. Like you're not going to crack into that vault. So you're already excluding that person, that they're unavailable to that part of you. So I think when you are emotionally available for someone, you invite them to all parts of you. You don't exclude them from, you know what I'm saying? So when you realize that there is a part of you that I want to keep for myself because I'm just doing me, you're already admitting that you're emotionally unavailable because you're not invited to this part of me. I'm not opening up my this portion of myself to you. So to me, that's an admittance within itself.
So let me bring this. This article is written by Psych Central, and this was, I think this is number 4. We talked about the 5 symptoms, or how to spot emotional unavailable people. It says they might not empathize with your feelings because they tend to turn off emotions and lack insight. People who are emotionally unavailable might also exhibit low empathy, the inability to understand or share someone else's feelings. In other words, an unemotionally available person may not be able to relate or consider your feelings at all. This doesn't mean they necessarily don't care, but they still act in a certain way that overlooks how you feel. So would it be safe to say that if, for those that are out there in the dating world, those that are out there, in this crazy dating world, um, if you hear someone tell you, "I'm just doing me right now," I'm just asking on the panel, and I'm asking also our viewers, would it be safe to say that they are emotionally unavailable, and we should park that relationship or that connection over in a place, not expecting it to go anywhere? Because a lot of our relationships, a lot of people, again, I've counseled a lot of people, I've had a lot of situations, we've brought this situation up, um, or this topic up. A lot of people, when they meet someone, a lot of them meet that person after hearing that statement, or they were told that statement by that person. Well, I'm not really looking for anything right now. I'm just dating. I'm just trying to find, I'm just trying to find me and trying to da da da. Is that really them telling us, I'm not really emotionally available, but if you stick around, I might open up or I might not? Because we got a lot of people on this show. We're promoting Black relationships, we're promoting Black marriage, we're promoting, couples. Would this be a good red flag for men and women to look out for, instead of trying to make something out of nothing? When they tell you they're just doing them, keep it right
Listen,
there. Listen.
Well, I think you keyed it up perfectly. It's a disclaimer saying like, we can give it a try, but I can't promise you anything. It's a disclaimer, and so at that point, you have to assume that that person may possibly very well be emotionally unavailable. You have to determine, are you willing to stick around until they are? So that's a gamble right there. That's a gamble. So you have to kind of Jarkay say run away, run away. But yeah, I think that person is telling you right up front. And to me, it's a little inconsistent. When somebody you
Yes.
date someone and right off the bat they're telling you that, it's just like, yeah, that would be a major. I'm like Jarkay, I would run away. That would be a major red flag. Like this person, they can't commit to it. They just can't even commit to the fact that they're willing to even give it a try. Like there's like, I'm working on me, but it's a relationship, so it's like a me and you kind of thing. But yeah, I think that you said it perfectly. It's a red flag. Like this person is emotionally unavailable. You have to decide, are you willing to stick around with no end date? Because you know you never know. You don't know. You don't know when that person is going to become emotionally available for you.
Now, okay, and again, I agree with what you're saying, because I think this is a conversation that needs to go through this depth, because a lot of our relationships now, from what I've been hearing in this dating world, it went from, when Brother Black and I, when we were dating in high school, we had to go to that girl's house. We couldn't honk the horn when we went over there. We had to get out and knock on the door, show our face, introduce ourselves. When we called the house, when their mother or dad would answer the phone, we had to have the gall to have the conversation, to introduce ourselves, give them their intentions, give them our intentions, etc. Now, And then it somewhere morphed into Netflix and chill, and now it's like, they'll hit your DM, you coming through, it's like everything is turned upside down backwards. And so now there is no opportunity to emotionally connect, because I think there's been so much hurt and trauma in the middle of all of that, to now it seems like getting close to anybody is problematic. Because again, when we look at the science of attachment, really what it boils down to is that we haven't had the opportunity to have our emotional needs responded to or attended to properly. So ultimately, when we're saying that we're just doing us, we're just taking out time and trying to find me, and I'm working on me. In other words, you're trying to get over the pain. You're trying to get over the hurt. You're trying to get over the letdown of the emotional connections that you previously had that didn't serve you emotionally. They served you physically, but they didn't serve you emotionally. And because of that, you became more independent. You became more independent physically. You became more independent emotionally. Because at that point, you realize that I can connect with someone physically, but I can't give you the real me. And so it's almost like, again, we turned it backwards. We'll give our body, but we won't give our spirit, or we won't give our soul, or we won't give our emotional self. Because I was looking in this article, and I want you to let me know how you feel about this. It says that many people who are emotionally unavailable, they suffer from what is called attachment wounds. They have a history of being abandoned and neglected or ridiculed, and may also lead to emotional unavailability. And these wounds can develop in childhood and later in life. But it says staying emotionally distant serves as a protective purpose in these cases. Because if I don't have to feel, then I don't have to feel pain. And if I don't have to feel close to you, then I'm not particularly vulnerable to having my feelings hurt by you. So it's like when we hear people give us all of these buzzwords, I forgot what you called it, Sister Beautiful, a disclaimer, I think that's what you said. When they're giving us all these disclaimers, what they're really telling us is that they're emotionally damaged and we need to stay far away from them. Is that a safe assumption?
I mean, I definitely safe assumption. And that it's kind of a catch-22. So
Mm-hmm.
it is a disclaimer, and they're letting you know that there is some issues involved, but it also is letting you know up front, like you as the other person receiving this disclaimer, you then have to make a decision, and the decision is this person worth the work I'm gonna have to put in to be with this person, or should I just run for the hills? So I mean, it serves two purposes for me when you do a disclaimer like that, because it's letting you know, like, instead of you trying to discover what the red flags are, they're giving you the red flags and like, hey, here's my red flags.
Right.
Do you want to deal with it or not? So um it does speak to a certain level of honesty, but unfortunately, that it happens a lot. Like, a lot of people are really, like you said, emotionally unattached, but it's becoming to be the norm.
Yeah.
A lot
Yeah.
of people are just hooking up to just to be hooking up
Yeah.
with no intent of having a relationship with
Yeah.
that person.
which
So
is which is why the percentage of marriages is going down. The ideal of commitment, and the suffering of commitment, and all that other stuff that comes along with it. It
yeah.
requires you to be emotionally mature,
Hmm.
and I think a lot of us are not holding fast to us wanting to become emotionally mature instead of just being emotionally, kind of manipulated to feel good and to be happy in a situation. I understand there's going to be struggles and tough times. You
Yeah.
said something earlier that really that stood out. I want to talk a little bit about us pushing ourselves in this corner of thinking that the other person, I won't say have to, but um, I think it's maybe by default they have to be able to understand our issue and be willing to work with us. I want to ask you a question. Is it ultimately the other person's responsibility to work with you through your issue, or is it ultimately your responsibility to repair yourself and not put that other person through that emotional trauma? Because if you're going to if you're going to force someone to support you through trauma that they didn't cause, that could be traumatic to the person trying to help you. It's almost like trying to help someone who's. I remember when my grandfather, when he got sick, when he had a stroke, he no longer had activity of a lot of his limbs. His gait was off and things like that. So we had to lift him up. And I don't know if you've ever had. I know you probably have. But people out there, if you've ever had to lift someone up, what they call dead weight, if they can't support you in any kind of way in helping them get up, all the work is on you. And so I think a lot of times when we have people who do have emotional unavailability or emotional trauma or wounds, a lot of times they'll get into relationships expressing that they have issues, but then they're not willing to help that person understand what they're going through and kind of help them support. Let me help you, help me type situation. A lot of times that's not happening. But ultimately, I mean, if we're going to go into this relationship, should we be expecting our partner to weather the storm with us through the entire time? Are we gonna just wear them out with our issue and say, hey, I got this issue, you got to deal with it? Or are we gonna actively be working through this thing through by ourselves before we jump into relationships? Because when we jump into relationships with emotional trauma, we have, bad connections, bad marriages, we have children with the wrong people, we have all this DV going on, etc. So what do you think? I mean, do you think that I don't think we should even go into a relationship if we have emotional wounds. I don't. But
Well,
what do you think?
before I go into it, I definitely want to give some shout outs to our viewers tonight. Our queens are coming through tonight. So Jarkay said no, and I agree with her. It is your individual responsibility to work on yourself. However, when you put a disclaimer out there, it's up to the other person to kind of gauge if it's too much or if it's something that's workable. Our other viewer tonight, Miss Tennille McClary, said two healed people in a relationship equals a healthy relationship. So at that point, when that person is telling you, hey, look, I got issues, but I'm working on them, that's different from, hey, I got issues and I need you to fix them. So it kind of goes back to when we were talking about the blueprint. When you put it all, out on the table at the beginning, and really put all your issues up front, it's up to the other person to decide and kind of weigh the odds, like, is this something I really want to get into, like, or if it's just too much for me, like I already know I can't handle it. So I think that's a part of the tough conversations we were talking about that couples or should have at the beginning of a relationship. Like, if you have red flags, I would prefer you to give me your red flags and let me shuffle through them and see if it's something that I can work with, versus finding out along the way as I'm trying to help you, work through some things. So no, that I agree with our viewers tonight. You definitely need to own your own stuff and work on it yourself, but be upfront if you have some issues and let that person know so they can decide for themselves and not feel, betrayed, or not feel, you know, um, deceived later on in the relationship because you wasn't upfront at the beginning about what issues you had. So yeah, no, nobody else can do the work for you. You have to do the work yourself.
So here's a question. And don't jump on me, but I gotta ask this question.
Oh my God.
It's just a question. Um, let me give you. I want to give you something, because in this article, emotional unavailability versus narcissistic personalities.
Mm.
So while the signs of emotional unavailability and narcissistic personality disorder may overlap, they aren't the same. And so just because you're emotionally unavailable doesn't mean you're narcissistic. But an emotionally unavailable person has difficulties expressing or handling emotions. Someone with narcissistic traits, however, may have an exaggerated sense of self, feelings of superiority, a sense of entitlement, a persistent need to be powerful, successful, smart, admired, loved, and persistent low empathy for others. All of that, exaggerated sense of self importance, feelings of superiority, sense of entitlement, all that stuff Persistent need to be powerful, successful, smart, admired, loved, persistent, low empathy. To me, everyone that I see, not everyone, the majority of the ladies that I see that are on YouTube and on social media that push the queen agenda are can be identified by one, two, or all of those. So is it safe to say that we have a lot of queens? Because I'm gonna get in the brothers in a minute. Do we have a lot of queens who suffer from narcissistic empathy? I'm sorry, narcissistic personality disorder, and also emotional unavailability? Because usually when we hear the queens, they say we don't need a man, we're powerful, we run the world, I'm the prize, you need to worship the ground I walk on. We're successful, we're smart, we're the most graduated, we're making more money than, you know, you should love me. They have low empathy for other people, scrubs and dusties and all that.
Mm.
Is that seems to be quite an accurate depiction of the queen ideal when you talk about the behaviors that they express. Um, is that accurate? Are our queens narcissistic and emotionally unavailable?
Um, no, I'm not gonna say that about our queen.
Not all, and of course, not all. Um,
But yeah, of course. Come on, it's a numbers game. So yes, you're gonna have some that fit that description. But I will say that majority of the queens, they they don't they don't perpetuate that they don't need a man. They perpetuate the fact that they are complete within themselves. In terms of achievements, in terms of their financial goals they've achieved, their educational and career goals that they've achieved. So the majority that I see, a lot of the queens who identify and call themselves queens are talking about the bag that they receive. Are they chasing or they're acquiring, not necessarily focusing on the fact that they don't need a man. So I'm gonna have to disagree with you with that. I don't think that that's their goal. Yeah, Jarkay said, "What queens are you referring to?" But
well, I
Jarkay, I
mean,
think you're talking about like a lot of the people on IG that you see on IG and stuff like that. Is that what you're referring to?
yeah. I mean, I'm not referring to like people in Valdosta. I mean, of course, there are a couple. There are a couple that if you want me to name names, I can do
No,
that.
don't,
What creeds are I can say names when
don't
you
do
look on
that.
their page, you look at the rhetoric that they share.
Hmm.
It's always I'm the prize, and I have I got this, I got that. I don't need a man for this, I don't need a man for that. Da 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 da. If I get a man, then cool, but if I don't, then I'm good. And it's a lot of that talk.
Yeah,
That's the same thing that B Simone pushes forth, this manifestation and this, that, and the third, but you're emotionally unavailable. You're expressing narcissistic, personality disorders, and yet you're still not finding the time to, like what we talked about earlier, work on yourself
right.
and stop making other people outside of you the issue.
Hmm.
And so that's the question that I had, because when we began to talk about it, that made me think that yes, there are a lot of women on social media, whether it be TikTok, whether it be YouTube. People have platforms where they push this narrative. You've got women dating coaches that have actually shut their business down because every woman that they're dealing with wants something that they don't qualify for. So this isn't coming out, and this isn't coming out of my mouth. This is coming out of women, nationally known women matchmakers that have said
Yeah.
they've quit the business
Mm,
because the women do not see themselves for who they really are. They have an inflated view of themselves. And so I was just wondering, because we have some guys that have this same issue.
exactly. Yeah.
They'll come on and then they'll talk. Derek Jackson was a perfect example. You know, he was a perfect person who, what we call virtue signal. You know, he was saying everything that women wanted to hear until the truth came out. You know, he was this, that, and the third, and he was this, and if a man ain't doing this, then he ain't this, and if a man ain't doing that, but the truth came out that he was suffering from narcissism. He was suffering from being emotionally unavailable because he had his own trash in his own backyard he hadn't picked up yet. And so that's the nature.
I think it's the social trend right now to be narcissistic, because of a lot of the propaganda that's out there. It is, constantly regurgitating that narrative to our young people and to the people, out there, in the social media world and on the platform. Like pretty much everybody has. They might say it, in a different way, but they pretty much have the same message. So it's a trend now to be narcissistic, I think. Um, but I think the people who have already done the work, you could tell the difference clearly between someone being narcissistic,
Mhm.
versus someone who is, who has identified that they're emotionally unavailable, but they're working on it. Just like our viewer said, like they've identified, but they're working on it. They're working through it. So, and to me, that kind of bleeds into another trend of being woke. So
Yeah.
I think the people who are woke, they have identified what the issue is, and they're working diligently to kind of work on themselves. But the trend right now is, yeah, to be narcissistic, to be all about me, and that blends with the entitlement complex as well. So that's where we are.
Well, I definitely think that it's something that you know, the article, and if you want to go back and review the article, it's actually written by Psych Central, psychcentral.com.
Mhm.
You know, the name of the article is How to Spot Emotional Unavailability. How to Spot Emotional Unavailability. It's written by Dr. Psychology, Dr. Lawrence, and it was written back in September of 2021. So it's pretty recent. You know, data that you can go back and get more information. But she does share that if you are with someone who's emotionally unavailable, she says you have to first realize this isn't something you can turn on and turn off at will.
Right.
It's something that, you know, your partner needs to seek professional help.
Mhm.
But she also said that if you have made the, you know, the conscious decision to support and continue that relationship, you have to also seek for professional support on learning ways and strategies on how to keep yourself
Right.
detached from their pain and their problems, but also be able to, you know, help with additional tools on how you can be supportive to them during the process.
Absolutely.
So we definitely want to give you all that. And, you know, if there's anyone, I know we had our Queen Jarkay who who came up forward, you know, with some vulnerable moments about her
Yeah.
recognizing that she has emotional unavailability. And I think a lot of us have to come to that realization as well.
Yeah,
We,
yeah. And she also shared with us that she's working on it. So like I said, she's identified it, she's working on it. And then one of our other queens and viewers tonight, Miss Tennille, was saying that you're on the road to when you're on the road of healing, you're on the road to a healthy relationship. So, as long I think that not only with this particular topic, I think with every single topic, the very first step is to acknowledge that there is an issue. So once you do that, then you're won the battle, over halfway won the battle.
absolutely, absolutely. Listen, I know that we've had some tough things we've talked about tonight, but I think we have at least, you know, skimmed the surface of very, very, very deep topics for you and your family and your loved ones to go, you know, to further discussion about. Because first of all, we need to expect the haters, you know, like Dion, you know, or what is Michelle Obama said, when they go low, we go high. I think we're going to have to, you know, take that road. Since then, Dion has not said anything negative about Coach Saban at all. I think we're going to have to take that high road. You know, learn some lessons from Dion's response. You know, when people take shots at you, when people, you know, throw darts at you, learn how to consistently take the high road. so that you can keep what the old folks say, you can keep your nose clean. But then we also talked about, other issues within our family life that challenge us when it comes to how we look at leadership. There's no leader perfect. I think we've all shared that tonight. There's not one leader that's perfect. And I think we need to get out of that Messiah complex, expecting people to be, just so untarnished to lead you when in fact you're broken and busted yourself. And so I think we have to start giving our leaders grace to be human,
Yeah.
grace to make mistakes, but still be called to be leader and for us to be dire supporters of them as well. And then also, making sure that when we're connected, we've been talking about building the Black family for over a year now.
Yeah.
And one thing we need to hold fast to is the fact that we gotta grow up emotionally. We got to stop taking these long sabbaticals, giving our bodies to everybody, giving our life to everybody, wasting years and time with the wrong people, and take a moment to step back and work on ourselves so we can really carpe diem and seize the days that we have left. Yeah, I think we've had a great show. I think we really covered some good stuff tonight. What do y'all think?
Good one. I definitely I like the recap area there that you did, and kudos to your household there. Congratulations, and we hope to follow in your footsteps as well as especially with our little ones that are coming here and matriculating through high school as well. But yeah, we had a good conversation. I hope the audience learned a lot, from what we shared as well. So appreciate that.
Yeah. Continue to do what you're doing, my brother. Continue doing what you're doing. We need more fathers like you, brother. Love you, man. All right, beautiful. What you got?
Oh wow. Well, tonight it was full. It was a loaded show tonight. Oh my gosh. I feel a little exhausted, but we made it. Through. Made it through. I want to give a shout out to all the viewers tonight. They were really chiming in. And you guys really, I love each and every one of you. You guys make the show what it is. We kind of feed off of your responses, and so we appreciate. We encourage you, to become more and more involved, so that we can really make this conversation not only something just for Tuesday nights, but something that you can make applicable to your everyday life. That's the goal. That you're taking some of this information and then using it on your circle of influence. So shouts out to all the viewers that chimed in tonight. I enjoyed it totally.
Yeah, man. Thank y'all so much. Chopping and chanting is always in the house. I appreciate you, my brother. Thank you so much. Jarke, we go way back like four flat tires. That's my girl. That's my dog. We've been through some rough situations at work back in the day, and she's always a great support. So we love you. Thank you so much for continuing to log in. All the rest of y'all, thank y'all so much. We didn't call your name, Janelle. Everybody, thank y'all so much for being here with us. And as y'all know, at that time, it's time for us to shut down. I know you don't start crying. Listen, it's all right. You can go back and watch some old shows until next Tuesday because we got some more stuff coming next week. But of course, I got to give my last little Easter speech so we get ready to get out of here. So my speech tonight comes from my motivational moment comes from Martin Luther King Jr. Of course, I had to be petty with it. You want to call my boy bad? I got to find something that's life changing. He said the ultimate measure of a man is not where he stands in the moment of comfort and convenience, but where he stands at times of challenge and controversy. This is for my brothers tonight, because I know a lot of times, we suffer a lot in silence. A lot of times we want to do a lot. We want to do great things, but we find it difficult. We can't find the one thing to help us make it through. But I want to let you know, and I want to remind you that a man is never measured by his victories. He's measured by his ability to continue to strive for victory when hell is raising up at his door. The ultimate measure of a man is not where he stands when everything is going well. They're not going to give you your praise just because you're a man. You're not going to get the respect as a leader just because you're a man. You have to be able to stand in the times of challenge and controversy. In other words, we all go through bad times. We all experience disappointment. We all have loss and change. And that even sometimes we all feel sad and anxious and stressed out. But Building resilience is really what's going to help us maintain a positive outlook, to help us face our uncertain future with less fear, for us to be able to get through even the darkest days. So you got to remember, they won't herald your name. They won't laud your name. They won't remember you when you're gone because everything went well. They'll measure your manhood by how well you fought and how straight you stood when life got difficult and times got hard. To all my brothers out there, keep standing tall. Keep standing firm. I know they're going to throw rocks at you. They're going to find their way to cut you down. And they're going to try to find negative things to say about you. But remember, this is when manhood is shown forth. Not when things are going well, but when things are going absolutely horrible. I can stand flat-footed and keep my chest and my head held high. I love y'all. Appreciate you being here tonight. Stand tall, my brothers. Until next Tuesday, peace, love, and light. We out.